The rain had started early that morning in Portland, tapping softly against the school windows as Sarah Mitchell prepared for the long day ahead. She arranged the papers on her desk, straightened the name tags for parents, and took a deep breath. Parent-teacher meetings always drained her polite smiles, repeated conversations, and the quiet ache that followed her home every time. Still, she was good at what she did. Her students loved her, and teaching literature gave her life a sense of rhythm. Even when her personal world had grown silent, Sarah was 38, thoughtful, with kind blue eyes and a calm voice that made her students feel safe. But lately, she had begun to feel invisible, not just at school, but at home too. Her marriage to David had grown stale. They barely spoke, and when they did, it was about groceries, bills, or his late hours at the firm. Sometimes she'd catch herself staring at him across the dinner table, wondering when the warmth had left them. There were no fights, just a quiet, endless distance that neither knew how to bridge. She brushed the thought away as the door opened and another parent left, thanking her politely. The day had been long faces, handshakes, and compliments blending into one another. But then, around noon, the next appointment name caught her eye. Emma Turner. Sarah smiled. Emma was one of her brightest students, thoughtful and soft-spoken. When the door opened again, a man stepped in, tall mid-40s, with warm brown eyes and an uncertain smile. He looked around the classroom as if he hadn't been in a school for years. "Hi," he said, extending a hand. "I'm Jack Turner, Emma's dad." Sarah stood to greet him. "Of course. Please have a seat. Emma's a wonderful student." He smiled at that, a mixture of pride and surprise. "She loves your class. She even started keeping a little notebook to write stories. I think you've inspired her." Sarah felt a rush of quiet happiness. That's wonderful to hear. She has a real gift. Her writing feels honest. That's rare for her age. Jack nodded, his expression softening. "I try to encourage her. It's just the two of us now, and she's my whole world." The words lingered in the air longer than either of them expected. There was something in the way he said it, not dramatic, not seeking pity, just a simple truth spoken by someone who had loved deeply and lost quietly. Sarah didn't want to pry up, but the silence felt fragile. "I'm sorry," she said gently. "That must be hard sometimes." Jack looked down for a moment. "It was at first. My wife passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. Emma was 8. I didn't know how to be both mom and dad, but somehow we figured it out." Sarah's chest tightened. "She's lucky to have you," she said softly. "You can tell she's loved. That kind of warmth always shows in a child." For the next 15 minutes, they spoke about Emma, her essays, her curiosity, her tendency to overthink. The conversation was natural, unforced. Sarah noticed how kind Jack's eyes were when he talked about his daughter, Kay, and how he listened, really listened, when Sarah spoke. Most parents came with a checklist. Jack came with stories. He laughed easily, but carried a quiet sadness, like someone who had learned to smile through pain. When their time was up, Jack stood, adjusting his jacket. "Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I really appreciate what you do for her. Teachers don't get told that enough." Sarah felt her heart warm. "Thank you, Mr. Turner. And please tell Emma she's doing wonderfully." He smiled one last time, then left. The classroom door clicked shut, and for a moment Sarah stood there, still caught in the soft echo of his voice. She didn't know why it stayed with her. It wasn't attraction, not yet. It was something simpler. She had spent so many years feeling unseen that even a sincere conversation felt like sunlight after a long winter lot. Later that evening, Sarah sat at her dining table grading essays, the sound of rain against the window filling the quiet house. David was still at work. She picked up one of Emma's papers, titled "A Moment That Changed My Life." At first, it read like any other assignment, neat handwriting, thoughtful reflections. But halfway through, Sarah froze. "I think my dad is lonely," Emma had written. "He doesn't say it, but I see it in his eyes sometimes. He smiles for me, but I know it's not the same smile he used to have when Mom was here. I wish someone would make him smile like that again." Sarah's throat tightened. The words were simple, innocent, yet they hit her like a wave. She could almost picture Jack sitting alone at the kitchen table, pretending everything was fine for his daughter's sake. It was the kind of quiet sadness she knew all too well. The rest of the evening felt different. She tried to focus on grading, but her mind kept drifting back to the essay. I think my dad is lonely. The words echoed inside her. She thought of her own life, the nights spent beside a husband who barely noticed her, the empty conversations, the absence of warmth. For the first time, she saw her own reflection in that single sentence to adults, both quietly aching in their separate corners of life. The next morning, as students filled the hallways with chatter and laughter, Emma came up to Sarah's desk after class. She was shy but smiling, holding a notebook close to her chest. Double quotes, Ms. Mitchell. She said softly, "Did you read my essay?" Sarah smiled. "I did, Emma. It was beautiful, really touching." Emma's eyes brightened. "Thank you. My dad helped me remember some of it. He says writing about real feelings makes stories stronger." "That's good advice," Sarah said. "You have a way with words. Keep writing. It's a gift." Emma hesitated, then added, "My dad said he liked talking to you. He said you reminded him of someone, but he didn't tell me who." Sarah's heart gave a small, unexpected flutter. "That's kind of him," she replied gently. "Your dad seems like a good man." Emma nodded. "He is, but I think he's lonely. Sometimes I wish he had someone to talk to. Someone nice." Sarah didn't know what to say. She smiled softly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Well, he seems like someone who'll be okay. He has you, after all." The girl grinned proudly and skipped out of the classroom. When Sarah sat back down, she felt a strange heaviness in her chest. Not sadness, exactly, but an awareness of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Empathy, connection, maybe even hope. That night, David came home late again. He dropped his briefcase on the table and went straight to the kitchen without a word. Sarah tried to start a conversation, asking about his day, but his replies were short, distracted. He didn't look at her. She set his plate on the table and sat quietly across from him. "Do you ever feel like we're just living side by side?" she asked suddenly. He looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "Like we're together, but not really together." He sighed. "Sarah, I'm tired. Can we not do this tonight?" Her heart sank. "Sure," she whispered and went back to her food, though she'd already lost her appetite. After he went to bed, she stood by the window looking out at the rain-slicked street. Her reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar, older, sadder. For years, she'd told herself that stability was enough, that love was meant to fade quietly. But for the first time, she wondered if maybe it wasn't supposed to, as she turned off the lights and walked toward her room. A thought crossed her mind, a thought she quickly tried to silence. What if there were still people out there who could make her feel seen again? She shook it off and went to bed, but sleep didn't come easily. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she kept hearing the echo of a child's wish. "I wish someone would make my dad smile again," for reasons she couldn't explain. That wish wouldn't let her rest. A week passed since the parent-teacher meeting, but Sarah couldn't stop thinking about Jack Turner. She tried to brush it off, telling herself it was silly. He was just another parent, and she was just a teacher doing her job. But some people left quiet marks, even in short moments. Jack had that rare sincerity that stayed with her. One Friday afternoon, after most students had left, Sarah stayed late in her classroom, grading essays. The sun had dipped low, casting orange light through the tall windows. The school hallways were silent except for the distant hum of cleaning machines. As she reached for another stack of papers, she heard a soft knock on the door. Double quotes, Ms. Mitchell. She looked up, and there he was again. Jack Turner, standing in the doorway, looking both surprised and uncertain. "Oh, Mr. Turner," she said, standing quickly. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Sorry," he said, smiling awkwardly. "Emma forgot her jacket this morning. She's at her friend's place now, and I thought I'd grab it for her before it gets colder." Sarah nodded, pointing to the coat rack near the back of the room. "It's right there." He crossed the room, picked up the jacket, and turned to her. "You really do work late, don't you?" She smiled faintly. "Occupational hazard. These essays don't grade themselves." He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I get it. My job's the same. I'm an architect, lots of late nights." "That explains the calmness," she said without thinking. He raised an eyebrow. "The calmness. You just carry yourself like someone who doesn't panic easily. It's rare these days." He chuckled softly. "You read people? Well, Ms. Mitchell, it's occupational hazard again," she replied, smiling. There was a pause, not awkward, but thoughtful. He looked around the classroom, taking in the posters, the stacks of novels, the little touches of warmth she'd added over the years. "You've created a beautiful space here," he said quietly. "Feels safe." Her throat tightened unexpectedly. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means a lot." Jack nodded, lingering near the door. "Well, I'll let you get back to it." "Didn't mean to interrupt." "You didn't," she said quickly. "It's actually nice to talk to someone who isn't 12 years old." He laughed, hesitating for a moment before asking, "Do you drink coffee?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Sometimes. I'm grabbing some on the way home. There's a little cafe around the corner, cozy place. You could use a break, maybe?" For a moment, Sarah hesitated. She thought about David waiting at home, though, truthfully, he never waited anymore. She thought about propriety, appearances, boundaries. Then she thought about how lonely she'd been for years and how kind Jack's smile was. "Sure," she said quietly. "Coffee sounds nice." The cafe was quiet that evening, with soft jazz playing and the smell of roasted beans filling the air. They found a small table near the window. The rain had started again outside, blurring the city lights into gentle streaks. Jack ordered black coffee. Sarah got hers with cream. For a while, they just talked about Ava-Stories. Books, the challenges of single parenting, and how quickly children grew up. "Sometimes I feel like she doesn't need me anymore," he said, stirring his cup absent-mindedly. "She's growing so fast. Half the time she's in her room writing or on the phone. I don't want to hold her back, but I miss when she used to run to me for everything." Sarah smiled softly. "That's a sign you did something right, you know? Kids grow confident when they feel safe." He looked at her for a moment, the kind of look that lingered just a second too long. "You're easy to talk to," he said. "I don't say that often." She looked down, her heart beating a little faster. "Maybe that's because I actually listen." He smiled at that. Maybe. They spoke for nearly an hour, the conversation flowing like they'd known each other for years. Sarah found herself laughing in a way she hadn't in ages, freely, without the weight of expectation. When Jack shared stories of late-night projects gone wrong or Emma's mischievous attempts to cook breakfast, she laughed until her cheeks hurt. As they stepped outside, the rain had eased into a drizzle. Jack walked her to her car, hands tucked into his jacket pockets. "Thank you," she said, smiling. "I didn't realize how much I needed to just talk." He nodded. "Me too." There was a brief silence, heavy with something unspoken. Then he said softly, "I hope this doesn't sound strange, but you remind me of my wife. Not how she looked, it's something in your eyes. You care, even when it hurts." Her breath caught. "That doesn't sound strange," she said gently. "It sounds honest." They stood there a moment longer, the world quiet around them. Then she smiled faintly. "Good night, Jack." "Good night, Sarah." The next few weeks brought a quiet shift in her routine. Every few days, Jack would stop by after school, sometimes to drop off something Emma forgot, sometimes just to say hello. Each visit was brief but comforting. They never crossed a line, but there was an energy between them neither could deny. One afternoon, Emma came running into class with a wide smile. "Ms. Mitchell, guess what? My dad made dinner for the first time in months. He said you inspired him to start trying new things." Sarah laughed, surprised. "Me? Yeah. He said you made him realize life doesn't have to stay the same." Her heart fluttered. She hadn't meant to change anything, but maybe. In small ways, she had. That evening, as Sarah packed up her things, she saw Jack standing by the door again. Emma told me you've been a good influence, he said. Smiling, I could say the same about you, she replied. He hesitated, then held up a small paper bag. Brought you something. My attempt at cooking? Don't worry, it's safe to eat. She laughed, accepting it. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he said simply as she opened it. The smell of warm apple pie filled the air. This smells amazing. Let's call it a thank you, he said, for reminding me that life can still surprise you. There was something about the way he said it, gentle, grateful, but layered with meaning. Sarah felt a soft warmth rise in her chest. Surprises can be good, she said. They can, he agreed, holding her gaze. For a long moment, they didn't speak. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was full, almost tender. And then, like before, they both stepped back, aware of the line they couldn't cross that night. Sarah sat alone in her kitchen, eating the slice of pie he'd given her. The sweetness lingered, but so did the ache. She thought about how kind Jack was, how easy it was to talk to him, and how far that was from the man she'd married. When David came home late again, he barely looked at her. She tried to start a conversation about her day, about the students, but he only nodded distractedly, scrolling through his phone. For the first time, she didn't feel sad. She just felt distant, as if they were two strangers sharing a house built on old promises. Later that week, as she was leaving school, she found Jack waiting near the gate. He looked uncertain but smiled when he saw her. Hey, he said. I didn't want to bother you, but Emma wanted to give you this. He handed her a small envelope decorated with colorful stickers. Sarah opened it and smiled. It was a handmade thank you card, filled with bright drawings and a message written in a child's careful handwriting. Thank you for making my dad smile again. Her eyes blurred. She's wonderful, she whispered. Jack nodded, his voice low. She is, and she's right, you know. You did make me smile again. Their eyes met, and for a moment, it felt like the world around them stopped, just two people who had both been lonely for too long, finding comfort in each other's presence. Sarah looked away first, her voice barely above a whisper. We should be careful, Jack. I know, he said softly, but I still wanted you to know. She nodded, holding the card close. Thank you for saying it. He smiled faintly, and they stood there for a long, quiet moment before he turned to leave. As Sarah watched him go, she felt both warmth and sadness. What they shared wasn't wrong. It was human, tender, and honest. But it was also fragile, a connection that couldn't go beyond where it was. And yet, deep down, she knew that some people come into your life not to stay forever, but to remind you of what your heart still needs. The days grew shorter as autumn faded into winter. The air turned crisp, and the small town of Maplewood started to glow with early Christmas lights. The school hallways filled with the sound of laughter and upcoming holiday plans. But for Sarah, there was a quiet ache that followed her everywhere. She hadn't seen Jack Turner in over 2 weeks. After their last conversation, the one where she told him they needed to be careful, things had changed. He still waved when he picked up Emma, still smiled politely, but the warmth in his eyes was guarded now. It was as if they both silently agreed to draw a line neither could cross. Yet even as she stood in her classroom each morning, trying to focus on lesson plans, her thoughts drifted. She remembered the sound of his laughter in that cafe, the way his eyes softened when he spoke about Emma, and the feeling of being seen, really seen, after so many years of invisibility. But life, as it often did, had other plans. One cold December morning, the school announced a charity winter fair, an event to raise money for families in need. Parents and teachers were expected to help. Sarah volunteered without hesitation. It was her way to stay busy, to avoid thinking too much. But when the volunteer list was posted, she froze at one particular name right beside hers. Jack Turner. The day of the fair arrived, with snow dusting the rooftops and children running around with mittens and hot cocoa. The gymnasium buzzed with music and chatter, Christmas decorations glittering under soft lights. Sarah arrived early, her hair pulled into a neat bun, her heart racing faster than she wanted to admit. She was setting up a booth of student-made crafts when she heard a familiar voice. "Need a hand with that?" She turned, and there he was. Jack, bundled in a gray coat, his smile uncertain but genuine. She swallowed the lump in her throat. "Hey, I thought you might have backed out." He shook his head. "Emma begged me to come. She's working the hot chocolate stand, and I figured it'd be nice to help." Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything around them faded. The music, the chatter, the laughter. It was like seeing someone you'd missed for far too long. "Then I'm glad you're here," she said softly. They spent the morning working side by side, laughing as they wrapped small ornaments, helping children paint tiny snowmen, and sneaking warm cookies between shifts. The air felt lighter, easier, like a friendship rediscovered. At one point, Emma ran over, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Dad, Ms. Mitchell, we made over $200 already." "That's amazing," Sarah said, hugging her lightly. Emma grinned. "You two make a great team." Jack laughed. "We do, don't we?" For a second, Sarah met his gaze and smiled. Maybe this, whatever it was, didn't have to be complicated. Maybe it could just be simple and kind. As the fair wound down, the crowd thinned, and snow began to fall again. The children had gone home, leaving behind echoes of laughter. Sarah stayed behind to help clean up. Jack offered to stay too. They worked quietly, folding tables and stacking chairs. The hum of the heater filled the silence. At one point, Sarah paused, brushing snow from her coat. "It's strange," she said softly. "I used to love winter. Lately, it's just felt cold." Jack looked at her, understanding in his eyes. "Sometimes it's not the season. It's what we're missing." Her hand stilled. "Maybe you're right." He hesitated, then asked Sarah, "Are you happy?" The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her that in years. She thought about David, the quiet dinners, the distant looks. The way love had slowly faded into routine. "I don't know," she admitted. "I think I forgot what happy feels like." Jack nodded slowly. "I know that feeling." The way he said it, calm but heavy, told her everything. He wasn't just talking about his marriage. He was talking about life, about years spent being strong for everyone else while quietly running out of strength for himself. They stood there in silence, the weight of shared loneliness between them. Then Sarah took a deep breath. "Maybe happiness isn't something you find," she said. "Maybe it's something you remember how to let in." Jack smiled faintly. "You always know how to say things that make sense." She shrugged. "Teacher instinct." He chuckled, but his eyes didn't leave hers. "Thank you, Sarah, for reminding me life can still feel real." Before she could respond, a voice called from the door. "Ms. Mitchell." "We're locking up soon." She turned back, startled, and by the time she looked again, Jack had stepped closer. The air between them was filled with a quiet energy, not desire, but understanding, something deeper. He spoke softly, his breath visible in the cold air. "You deserve to be happy," Sarah tightened. "So do you, Jack." He nodded, his eyes glistening slightly. "Maybe someday we both will be." After that night, life slowly settled again. The fair became a fond memory, and the days rolled toward Christmas break. Sarah didn't see Jack much. He was busy with work, and she threw herself into lesson planning and grading. Still, every time she saw Emma smile, she felt warmth in her chest. One afternoon, as the semester ended, Sarah received a small envelope in her school mailbox. Inside was a Christmas card with simple handwriting. "Thank you for being kind. You reminded me what grace looks like." "Merry Christmas, Jack." She smiled, tears prickling her eyes. That evening, she placed the card on her mantel. It wasn't a love letter. It wasn't a confession. But it was something that mattered more. A connection that had changed them both in quiet, lasting ways. Christmas Eve arrived, cold and bright. Snow blanketed the streets, and the scent of pine filled the air. Sarah sat alone by her window, sipping tea and watching the lights twinkle outside. She thought about everything that had happened, about loneliness, courage, and the strange ways people found each other when they least expected it. David was at his parents' house, as he had been for years, claiming it was family tradition. But this year, she didn't mind. She didn't feel bitter or broken. She just felt peaceful. Her phone buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown number. "Hi, Sarah. It's Jack. I just wanted to say Merry Christmas. Emma's asleep and we're watching the snow. She still talks about you all the time. I hope you're smiling tonight." Sarah's lips curved softly. She typed back, "Thank you, Jack. I am smiling. Tell Emma Merry Christmas for me." There was a short pause, then another message. "You were right. Happiness isn't something we find. It's something we remember." Sarah looked out the window again, snowflakes drifting under the glow of streetlights. Her heart felt light, not because of what could have been, but because of what was to people, both healing, both learning to open their hearts again. She whispered into the quiet room, "Merry Christmas, Jack." Years later, when Sarah looked back, she didn't think of that winter as a time of heartbreak or longing. She thought of it as the season that changed her. This season she remembered how to feel again, how to laugh, how to hope, how to see herself not just as someone's wife or teacher, but as a person worthy of being truly known. She and Jack never became anything more than friends. They didn't need to. Their story wasn't about forbidden love or regret. It was about connection, the kind that restores faith in people, the kind that teaches you it's never too late to start again. And sometimes that's all a heart really needs.